Yeah, I mean, the sales process went from 9 months to 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And the average order value went from, I think it was $28,000 to 150 on average.
Ooh.
Because people started to understand, here's what I'm really solving, right? I'm not just buying technology.
Your business's success depends on relationships, relationships with customers, relationships with employees, and relationships with stakeholders. What do they all have in common? They're all human. Because no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Welcome to the Human Connection Podcast. I'm your host, Karl Pontau. Each week I'll bring you stories, insights, and practical advice from experts that you can apply to your growing company and daily life. This week I'm excited to connect with Sebastian Pistritto, 4-time CMO specializing in technology and fast growth organizations. He brings a unique blend of strategic leadership, digital marketing expertise, and industry insights in financial services, healthcare, and retail. His passion lies in driving business growth through innovative marketing strategies, optimizing customer acquisition, and enhancing brand value across complex, highly regulated industries. As a B2B marketing expert and thought leader, he has consistently delivered transformative marketing solutions that scale brands and drive customer engagement. With a track record of achieving 10x revenue growth, increasing customer retention, and enhancing product market fit through data-driven strategies, he is dedicated to advancing the value of SaaS solutions in dynamic markets. Pistritto has published numerous articles, including 7 Steps on Engaging with Mobile Customers, Selecting an Ad Server Technology, and Managing Your Lead Qualification Process, which have appeared on Internet.com, Mobile Marketer, MicroStation Manager Magazine, Control Alt Delete Newsletter, Variety Newsletter, InView Newsletter, and Insider Reports Journal. Congrats on achieving 10x revenue growth, and welcome to the Human Connection Podcast.
Thanks, Karl. Thanks for having me.
So for a lot of clients or companies these days, client acquisition is a huge challenge, and you seem to be a great person to share some insights on how understanding customers better improves the customer acquisition process. Tell me some more about that.
Sure. I think a lot of times we make the mistake that one size fits all. So when we look at customers, or we look at acquiring new customers and looking at prospects, we tend to have a very predictable approach or pitch that we think applies to that individual. And I think we fundamentally miss the mark by stepping back and really understanding that that's, first of all, it's a person on the other side that you're communicating with. And so you really need to connect with that individual. You need to understand how he thinks, how he sees the challenge, what he's trying to solve. And then you can then begin to have the dialogue to say, here is how I can help you. I think we miss that every single time. We have a tendency to sort of get excited about our products or about our solution or about our technology, and we jump right in and say, well, let me tell you about all the things that my product can do. Well, time out. It may not be what he's looking for. So pull back, ask some discovery questions, ask things like, who are you? What are you trying to do? What's the challenge you're trying to solve? How are you doing it today? Why do you want to do it differently? And really start getting into the individual's perspective of his challenge and potentially how you can position yourself and your products to help him to achieve that.
Yeah, I think that the phrase that I love for the mindset to have it is meet the customer where they are. Don't try and get them to come to you. If you show up where they are, how they're feeling, what they're experiencing, and can show you understand their situation, and then explain after you've shown that you understand them, how what you're offering gives them the opportunity to transform where they are to who they want to be, where they want to be, and overcome the challenges they're struggling with. That's way more compelling than a standard spiel about features and benefits that you might be really excited about. But if it doesn't match with what they're looking for at that moment, you're going to talk past them, and it's going to be more annoying than helpful.
Yeah, and I think, there's an old psychology that says that as human beings, we sort of have 2 fundamental needs: the need to be understood and the need to be validated. That's at the core of who we are as human beings. So whenever we interact with anyone, whether it's a spouse, whether it's a friend, a neighbor, or potentially a customer or a prospect or a salesperson, that's fundamentally where you need to resonate. Can you validate him, and can you make him feel understood of what he's actually trying to do? You achieve that, you achieve a relationship. You achieve a relationship, you build trust. You build trust, you can now position and sell and acquire that individual as a customer. But you have to do those things first.
Yeah, I imagine, given your bio that I read out earlier, that you have some great stories of helping companies achieve that result. Is there a particular case story you can share with us real quick?
Yeah, there's a technology company that was interested in positioning their product from one vertical to another vertical. So sort of an adjacent. And initially, they were using similar language from a previous industry into a new industry, because the fundamental value that was positioned around that product was operational efficiencies and some compliance benefit. The issue was not all industries have compliance issues, at least not to the level of, let's say, healthcare or financial services. And number two, although the technology platform had core competencies that provided the benefit of operational efficiency, each industry, in this particular case, this new industry, saw the challenge completely different. They didn't see it as operational efficiency. They saw it as reduction of labor force and a savings to the bottom line. So it took time to really understand that that's really what they wanted to solve, and using their own terminology, that we were able to then switch from here's why the product is so great for you to here's the outcome you're trying to drive. Let me show you how this particular platform can drive that outcome. And so once we understood that and positioned that way, people said, you're speaking my language.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense that going between two different verticals, two different industries, that you need to change the way you speak. It's like if you go to another country and to start speaking in a language that no one speaks there, you're going to get a lot of blank stares and weird looks. And it's the same sort of problem when you're reaching out to a different customer base, different industry, and expect them to speak the same language as someone else. That doesn't really make any sense. And so what was the impact that speaking the right language for this new industry had on the business? What were the kind of the sales results? Do you have any of those you could share?
Yeah, I mean, the sales process went from 9 months to 4 months.
Oh, wow.
And the average order value went from, I think it was $28,000 to $150 on average.
Ooh.
Because people started to understand, here's what I'm really solving, right? I'm not just buying technology. I'm actually solving an issue for it. And what's interesting in that exercise is that, and this probably applies to almost every organization in every industry, is that within an organization, there's sort of, to simplify things, there's sort of 3 tiers of management. There's the C-level individual, your CEO and your finance, your chief financial officer. Then there's your director, one level down. They're the operational people. They're the day in and day out to do stuff. And then below them are the workers. They're the individual people that are contributing to the success and the day-to-day task of the job. And all 3 of them see their business challenges completely different. A CFO sees it as a cost issue and sees it as a limitation around growth. So a CEO may say, I'm interested in growing the company. I'm interested in acquiring market share. I'm willing to spend the money if there's an ROI around it. The second tier down, they have a fixed budget. So really, when you go in and talk about the solution, they're like, I don't have any money to spend this year. I only have a fixed budget. I can't do this program. And then you have the workers who say, boy, my 8-hour shifts is becoming 12-hour shifts, and I can't seem to get up underneath all of this work. So understanding that even within the organization itself, there's sort of these dynamics and these people who are contributing to the same core beliefs and same mission and goals of producing that widget or that product and taking it out to market and satisfy their customer, but they see their problem completely different. And so understanding that even at the organizational level will make you a better person in acquiring new customers.
And it'll make you able to communicate the different kind of, I guess, dialects of the language of that industry, because I'd imagine for at each of those levels, depending on the industry you're in, there's slightly different variations on the biggest kind of pain points or restrictions. Like if it's more regulated industry, then there's going to be differences in how the business is run and what the directors and the employees versus the C-suite care about. So even if you have the general, again, like I said, the directors are like budget constrained, and the C-suite is more about like the vision and growth and the aspirations, and then the workers more about like how does this affect my daily life? Those concerns also are different depending on the industry you're in. So you have to really make sure you're focusing on the specific audience and then of course how well they know your business with the level of the relationship you've already established, whether it's the first touch point or they're right about to close the deal, is very different language than between those two steps. So it just again shows how ineffective blanketing all of those different groups with the same message is when it comes to marketing these days, because the odds of it actually resonating is almost nothing.
Yeah. And I think, again, going back to really connecting with the individual as an individual person, I always advise people, and I use it myself in my own discipline, is when I get engaged with a prospect and trying to get them to be a customer, I'm trying to understand their need, their value, and where they are in that journey. And so I typically use what I call a very key word, which is the word why. So I always ask all my questions with the word why in front of it. For example, I would say to an individual, why are you looking for this solution? Why are you doing the way you're doing it today? What's causing you to evaluate that? And when you do that, it becomes a dialogue. It becomes more of a friend genuinely interested in helping you. And what ends up happening, the tables almost turn. Now they're not looking at you as someone that's trying to selfishly sell them a product that may or may not solve their problem. They're now looking at going, well, I'm doing it this way because I've always done it that way. And I'm looking for a solution because it's costing us too much. And we have now 10 people trying to address this problem, and we're still not getting in front of it. So now you really start to get to know the individual as a person, but really you start to get to that layer that you need to, which is, what is it that you're trying to solve? Is it because you have too many headcounts in that role? Is it because you're taking too much time to do it? Is it because it's an area that you're losing money and it's not profitable? Those types of things. But the fact that you help them by asking these why questions, together you're solutioning. Together as human beings, you're making a connection and you're figuring out what is the right solution for him. What's the right product? What's the right technology? What's the right thing for him to do next?
I love that, because the asking those sort of questions and the why questions reminds me of the whole 5 whys exercise that Toyota uses when it comes to understanding what the real value is behind a feature or a benefit, like why people actually going to care about this instead of just what the thing is. But also that approach that you just described about asking why in these open-ended questions is a very coaching feel, where you're not there with a set script trying to like force them through a predetermined steps. You're asking questions and actively listening and showing that you care about what they're saying. And by asking these questions, you're sparking the aha moments that'll help them either determine that they do need what you're selling or not, but you get there in a way where if they do realize they want to buy and end up buying, they don't end up feeling afterwards that they kind of got forced into it or rushed into it, because they've you've given them the chance to actually help them think through it in a way that leads to not just a sale, but the beginnings of a recurring business relationship, because they have that sense of being heard and you respected their feelings and thoughts on uncovering the challenge, and the solution that you ended up providing is a much more, it just feels better on an emotional level, because it wasn't something that was forced onto them. It was something that they arrived at with you. It seems like a subtle shift, but has a huge impact on the dynamic of the relationship.
Yep. And then I think at that point, once you've sort of collected enough information and their perspective, I think you reflect that back. You say, Karl, let me make sure I understood what you're trying to do. You told me you wanted to reduce the cost. You told me you have too many people trying to solve the issue. You have an old process that's not working anymore. And now it's gotten to a point where you have to make a change. Otherwise, it will impact the business going forward. Did I hear that correctly? And again, there's sort of a dialogue that goes on after that. Yes, except there's also this and this. Okay, great. So now you've collected this. And again, you together came up with that conclusion, right? You're no longer salesmen trying to push something on me. And now that you reflected that, he now feels validated and he feels understood, right? Sort of that psychological aspect that's going on behind the scenes. And so now he's ready to hear what product or service or technology that you have. And you have to be very specific of all the things that you have, handpick the ones that will impact those points that he mentioned and show them the correlation. Well, we have a methodology that's been used by a number of different organizations that would reduce your headcount from those 10 people down to 4. And that we have also some technology that can automate some of the front end tasks that you're manually doing with people, that not only can you reduce the amount of time on it, but you'll be able to respond to your customer base much more quicker. Instead of a day, you'll be able to respond to them within 30 to 40 minutes. Does that sound like something that would add value to what you're trying to do? And again, all of a sudden, it's not a push and a pull. Genuinely, 2 people now are on the same page trying to solve that problem. And the beauty is you get the opportunity to put that in their lap. And you can also give them the opportunity to say, hey, if that doesn't make sense, or if that doesn't really solve your problem, then I may not have a solution for you. But let's see if I can make some recommendation for something that could help you. Now, all of a sudden, the relationship gets much more cemented. Now you start to become trusted. He's like, he's not trying to sell me something. He's genuinely trying to help me to solve a solution. It could be his stuff, or it could be somebody else. And he's even open to making that suggestion. I think I trust this guy.
Yeah, and it goes beyond just a vendor trying to sell you something. It is a real business relationship and there's a personal friendship aspect to it, where you're focusing on their well-being, not meeting your quota, that sort of thing. And people can tell when you have their best interest in mind, and it leads to a much more one enjoyable outcome for both people, because there's that connection that is often missing in business relationships, and it's, I think, really reliant on that active listening aspect that you talked about, which is so often missing in the sales relationships that people have with the companies they do business with, or with how salespeople are trained, and how they're incentivized. So I think it's a brilliant insight on how to build understanding with customers first leads to increased acquisition and also increased retention, because you're starting these relationships off the right way.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Well, thank you so much for connecting with me today, Sebastian. If you enjoyed this episode of the Human Connection podcast, please leave a review and share it. If you'd like to connect with myself or Sebastian, please check out the links in the show notes. And remember, no matter if your business is B2B or B2C, it's really H to H, human to human. Happy connecting.